getting out of it.
I will say that I think that a big kind of deterring factor for that is the fact that you have to go and pick it up where you dropped it, and of course it's kind of like Sage Res, right? If it's in a bad spot, you're just not gonna go for it. That player's just gonna stay dead. Similar with that util, you might just end up losing it forever. So and true of any agent like Cypher going to retrieve those traps so that you have it in the next round, etc, etc. So it can, as you say, create that power creep, but for now we're gonna be heading into this matchup and looking forward to seeing how this is going to pan out, with Apeks starting here on the attacking side. So some really good potential use from that Gecko, and instantly a nice little gel glop on the face.
The globule will be recollected, both of them in fact, and this is exactly what we're speaking about. They've taken a main control, and at the expense of what, 20 seconds combined worth of cooldowns, which will be back in the pocket in 10, and there you see 2, 1, and they have it again, right? Taken the orb, building towards the Thrash as well, which will be useful for some of that clearing. And it's interesting to see how Apeks implement this, because against Coalesce it was a 13-5. They played the majority of those rounds on the defense, and we didn't get much of a look at it as a result. But yeah, the Dizzy goes out, the beacon flung yet again, and more space that they have to work with.
Of course, it says a lot for Enzo and how carefully he uses that utility, but now they're going to start pushing out into this courtyard, and the first kill is going to go the way of Lime.
Yeah, very nicely dealt with. The Killjoy set up firmly on A, but Apeks have no idea of this. You've got Magnum already trying to realize some kind of a late lurk in through the mid position. In fact, plays his hand early. He'll roll the dice, no problems. Just like that, the kill's being found, but Fokus have a good defense of the site itself. And with that trade immediately in response from Lewis, it means that they're very heavy-handed here on this side of the map. The Dizzy coming in for the third time in the round, Enzo making the most of it, but Yugi catches him in an awkward situation, and now with Shadow, the last player remaining, a couple headshots coming out, simply won't be enough. Fokus find the pistol round for the first time in this series.
I will say pushing down long with pistols can be precarious at times. I certainly favor an A hit with pistols, but at the same time, you can't be too telegraphed. If you are hitting A every single time, teams are going to very, very quickly pick up on that. So this was a good way of kind of faking out a little bit, garnering some of that early information, rotating across. Unfortunately, they do get caught in the cross, and there aren't enough players alive by the time they get to the site to actually garner some control there. So a nice first round picked up here by Fokus, and it's going to be a pretty standard force up from them.
Yeah, and they want to actually take this A main control. Immediately, you're seeing that counterplay interacted with in terms of what Enzo could have offered them. Like I was saying before, Yugi's Tailwind's going to run out off the back of the timing. The util will come through. A suppression as well, perhaps, but it doesn't matter as the guns come alive. Kills being found, and Apeks forced to retreat into this advanced art position that Magnum has already taken up for them.
You gotta bear in mind also it's nice that you can toss that globule into Narnia, but it is quite slow and it can be countered, and we see that play out perfectly by the Focus players there as they continue to clean up these last few members. And there you have it, an almost flawless round for Focus, only losing one player in the scuffle.
It's a composition like that doesn't come without its quirks, of course, right? And there is obviously different ways that Focus can try and deal with that issue.
Yes.
I think both of these teams, and most of the teams in the region, are just so much more strong and defensively sound on this map. I mean, it's not a narrative that I want to delve into too quickly on here as well, because we have just seen, you know, pistol, standard, anti-eco conversion, but I think we need to see Magnum get a little bit more value out of these lurk positions in towards mid as well, an area of the map that we're yet to see them play at this point in time. Ever so slight technical issue, I believe. Hopefully that can become resolved. But yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Those are the areas that you want to try and punish. You've got 4 lanes to work with here on Pearl, and if you're not utilizing those through split pushes or some kind of late presence which can really help you in your scaling efforts, then you're not making the most of it.
Apeks gonna have a nice little advantage for themselves here, because of course getting that one player down, the reinvestment is minimal, to say the very least. It's just going to be that Sheriff in for Lime, so not going to be evening out the weaponry across the board. And so Apeks going to have a nice opportunity here to try to take full advantage of that. Of course, the first couple of rounds haven't gone the way they would have wanted. We've seen some of that early utility coming out from the Gecko, but it hasn't really found them the footholds that they would have liked, especially with Focus playing that far more aggressive hold out towards A main. So now, yeah, I see a lean over towards A again, so they might actually commit to it this time.
Yeah. I mean, there's not too much that we can really know about it, right? But yeah, in terms of what we do know, apparently one of the players is having issues with packet loss. And
Oh, no.
I can quickly tie this in with a plug, some of my filler content. This is why we buy Pringles. They come in a tube, not a packet, guys. Come on, simple stuff.
Wait, I will say you've got a point there, because you know when you buy a packet of chips and or crisps, depending on where you are from the world,
yes.
and it's like 50% actual content and 50% air.
Yeah.
That's not the case with Pringles. They actually fill their tubes. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
we were speaking about this earlier as well. I didn't realize, but on the advert, the shape of it is actually like for your mouth.
Yes.
I know, so I've seen people do it before and make it look like a duck beak, but no, I had no idea. And to pick back up, to peck up perhaps what was going on before, we should be getting live and back into the action now. So no more nonsense from us. And yeah, just to go on that point of what you were saying, I think A main has been hotly contested by both teams. With this knowledge coming into the bonus, Focus have adapted that setup a little bit and gone more passive.
We're seeing the splits that you were talking about a little bit earlier on as well, with nice presence out towards mid, and nobody coming into that courtyard area, even though it's being held quite heavily by Focus. Instead, it's going to be quite a heavy lean over this way, and A is relatively unguarded, so if they can be quick about it, they could actually push, but it might just be another fake.
Yeah.
Quote unquote fake.
I think right now Enzo is going to be spending more time holding his pickup bind than he is taking any of these fights, as you've already seen a recycle of the Dizzy there in towards main. And yeah, taking pretty astute control of the site here. You've only got to worry about KPZ in this deep dugout position. And when Focus were playing before, they offered up a little bit too much coming in through the retake in these kinds of positions. But this time around, they're looking fairly decent. 5 versus 5. It's about catching someone off guard, maybe finding a pick. They'll attempt to do so, but the flash through and the Nova Pulse is brilliant from Apeks to shut things down.
Such good counter utility there. They could see so much of it coming through, but they instantly bite back. Only 2-1 play. Nope. None.
You are not allowed to count on the broadcast. It's against
Never
the
do maths on
caster's code.
broadcast.
Yeah, it was easy as 1 round for Apeks, 2 for Focus, and 3 for Kiko there. And we'll see if perhaps in round number 4, quite nicely, the first gun round of this game, what that then looks like. Because actually, in terms of building in towards that ultimate, Enzo isn't too far forward. You're actually getting closer to Shadow's null command. Waddle doing a bit of that himself. Lockdown coming into play. I mean, by the time we're in the first rifle round, there are no ultimates on the board, plain and simple.
Very slow start across the board. Fairly even in terms of kills that are being garnered from the players as well. So that definitely plays a part. Oh man, the spam through the box. Yugi forced to reposition instantly. What a good read from Apeks.
Head below the water, less than 100 HP, but still plenty to keep him healthy and around. No operator prioritized coming into this one from Yugi, so liking the more dynamic play in towards these retakes. It looks like what the setup has been. Lime caught at the bottom of the pillar and toppled as Apeks just run through the site. KPZ on a rotation, Magnum in this lurk position like I was saying earlier, with the shorty up close flicking left and right and ultimately punished. KPZ with a couple of kills, and now things start to look a little more tenable for them from this position. Kiko just needing to play spoiler, buy as much time as he can in Hall, and let the rest of the distraction work be done by the long players. They swing in unison. It's a combined team effort for Apeks as they level the score early on.
Only losing 2 players, not the worst scenario to be in, so they're going to be happy with that round. As you say, they even out the scoreline for themselves, and they get a couple of those ultimates online as well. And this is pretty big for them because it's going to give them quite a leg up into this next round. Not that they needed much of a leg up. It is going to be a eco from Focus, just a few upgraded pistols. So very likely we'll hold on to those ults into the next round. Staring down the barrel of a 3-2. Although Focus, I mean, we've seen what they're capable of with these sheriffs. Some good positioning, and they might just be able to turn the tides.
Yeah, it seems like as soon as Focus begun to shy away from this A main position, they've been struggling to dictate the rounds a lot more. I mean, yeah, you can speak about gun advantages and whatnot, but Enzo being allowed free roam from this position right now, and yet again, has just built up into the Thrash. I'm really curious to see what this implementation looks like on their attack side, because it was primarily for the retake sort of previously. There's a jump spot there from Kiko. It's a dangerous one, but Enzo bails him out. An over-aggression from Lime on long also goes punished. Kiko jumping in yet again, and hop, skip, and a dash away for Yugi to sort of disappear from the situation. Still, Apeks not making a committal with less than a minute left.
Well, we saw the neural theft come out, which seemed like a bit of an overcommitment, but it gives them a ton of information, and now they can start pushing in onto this A site relatively uncontested.
With the Focus players are here, they probably want to fight it early, but they don't even get a chance to look at the site. Mystic is there. He foresees everything and just spams through the wall. I mean, the gunfire is ridiculous. It's like World War II, and you're having to pick up a rifle from, you know, someone else at your feet. But even at that point, it's far out of reach. KPZ, okay, finds a couple of kills at least on the Sheriff. But even then, when we're seeing something from Focus, it seems to be too little too late. And, well, on that kind of a round, little expectation. This one is so important, especially with that operator now in Yugi's hands.
I will say that your World War II analogy works so well, because KPZ was literally in a trench.
Yeah.
And it still manages to get 2 kills. But unfortunately, as you say, right, too little, too late. We needed more of the players to step up in the beginning portions of the round. That being said, look how close they are to ultimates here on Focus. Yeah, in their gun round, 1 kill, 1 ult orb, and they could turn the tide. But Apeks going in for a relatively aggressive pusher towards A.
Yeah, KPZ needs to shoot out the Dizzy and support Yugi from that position, really, if they want to hold on to it. You saw the 0 point come in as well, just making it really difficult. The warning shot fired and the dash burned through. Apeks happy with this one. Okay, let's just rotate back around. We don't have too much control otherwise. It's this cam, which is very cheeky from Magnum. And he's shown us so many different setups on the Cypher on this map, and right now, Art is at least okay to work off of. You've posted up Mystic in main, and this could be useful, especially if Focus want to re-challenge here.
Here we go.
Looks like they're going to, and there we go. KPZ drops. Yugi's going to struggle to trade it, and especially, oh, if there was a smoke up, okay, never mind. Not going to happen. The Thrash finally invested, going around the back of Connector, and managing to detain on towards the position of Waddle. Taken out as Shadow finds a couple, but with 30 seconds left on the clock, a decision must be made, and that Killjoy setup still remains on the B plant.
Oh no.
Oh, come on, breaks the setup. The wingman goes through. Does he want to break it? Instead takes the fight and the spike down with him. Popped into the backpack of Enzo as it goes flying through the air. It is really difficult, this situation now. No safe plant for him to work with whatsoever. He's good in the clutch, but you're just asking way too much in that situation. 3-3, a great response from Focus.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like a round that Apeks should have had in the bag, and they just kind of allow it to crumble around them. So they start with the aggression into A, post Mystic up in a fantastic off angle for in case Focus push out. Mystic gets the first kill, but doesn't put up a smoke for himself. Instead, he's putting up util for the rest of the team. And in that interim, as he attempts to cross over, he gets taken out. And then there's like a complete mess happening in mid, where Apeks are just kind of trickling in 1-for-1 and slowly getting whittled away. And when they start to rotate over towards B, Lime gets there first, and he's able to hold it down.
That round was instrumental for Focus as well, because look at the ult economy that they have now too. If you are Apeks, you dug pretty deep into those pockets to be investing it. Magnum, again, just trying to hold things down in mid. Be the binds which hold everything together at this point in time for Apeks. And this is some more of the good mid-rounding that we're seeing. And yet again, it's Lewis at the forefront making these decisions. KPZ, his long-lasting comrade, helping him in this end. As they do a quick sweep of the mid control and move away. Not too much information's really been gained from this, as Magnum should take it for his own later in the round.
Thankfully, Magnum manages to survive the op positioning there. A little bit of util out in A. Oh, I thought it was setting up Kiko the way that they had earlier, and unfortunately, as he attempts to escape, Hansa's Fury is going to annihilate him. And of course, this is going to be read very quickly from Fokus. Like, oh, they faked A again. They're probably going B. And now they're going to create this pincer through mid.
Yes, that mid control now finds its value in the fact that they can activate a really fast flanking position here from Lime at the very least, just to be hitting the trip. The Cosmic Divide comes through, but the players are a little hesitant to move in towards the site. A simple denial of the spike could help them out, no wonder. Yugi flying up on the high angle, but then re-peeks through the wall. Two now for Enzo, having to take the task of planting the spike on his very own back. With the Cosmic Divide up, it's cloaked the footsteps. Lime has made such an approach in towards the site. Will be Mystic, playing around and more heroics required. Seen both him and Enzo go for a clutch, but now they know about the position, and he's just got to jiggle these angles and walking into a stack of two. Fokus walk out with the round.
I feel like Apeks are overthinking a lot of these rounds, and they're doing the same thing every round. They're throwing some util out towards A, and then they pivot away. And Fokus are like, okay, you keep doing that. But that being said, this is a great opportunity for some of that conditioning. Now maybe they throw some util out A and then actually commit, and Fokus go, whoa, hang on a second.
Yeah.
But they lose so many of the late round battles because Fokus are reading into what they're doing. They're not over-rotating, they're not over-committing, and instead they're waiting for that potential pushback. They're hanging out towards mid, they're pincering in, and even with that Cosmic Divide, they're not able to maintain control of the space.
As you see, sort of every 3-4 rounds, Enzo is getting his ultimate back online, and the priority here should be to do exactly that yet again. Fokus emptying their bank a little bit themselves in the previous round. We had the Cosmic, the Lockdown, the Hunter's Fury. Still in possession of that null command, and it'll be a useful tool in towards a potential retake, but Fokus really prioritizing locking down the mid-map, and they've even posted Yugi here on the operator. He was thinking about it. Perhaps made to reconsider. Goes for it again, and the timing is fantastic. Really nicely done, and he gets away with it too.
And they're not going to push this because he could just be holding that angle. So they have to play a little bit more passive now, but it's going to be that split in over towards A. Once again, this time it looks like they might actually commit, but Fokus have already started to rotate.
Yeah, the nano setup there actually completely destroys the Thrash as it comes in towards the site. Enzo has looked to pick it back up, but with this investment of the null command in towards the retake, they shouldn't be able to do so. At least I thought that was the case. It doesn't seem as if it was just a little too early, perhaps. The Thrash is coming back in, looking to clear out backside, but yet again will go broken. Flash in for the peak. Lime finding a couple of kills, and just like that, it is that couple of kills which make the difference between the two teams. All up to Enzo. Yet again, Yugi flying high and taking Fokus all the way through. Now 5 rounds for them. Very nicely worked.
And this puts Apeks in a very tough spot because they know they have to gain control of mid, because if they allow Fokus to take that mid control, they are absolutely going to be systematically dismantled. So they need to maintain that control. But at the same time, if they push out, do that same kind of trickle effect that they were doing previously, they are 100% going to lose those battles, especially if it's Yugi posted up in whichever area they're pushing into, especially if it's towards Art, towards that kind of smaller courtyard area, because it's so small and tightly compacted. If you're pushing through together, the chances of a collat or a spray down are so high. So they need to be in the slightly more open areas, but obviously out in the open areas, you are out in the open. You yourself don't have a lot of cover. So Apeks find themselves in a really, really tough decisional point here. And what I will say is that there hasn't been any early aggression towards B. It's always like early A, move to B, early A, split mid A, right? Like there isn't really any presence towards B early on, and that might be something they could look to explore.
Definitely. I think this map, for some people, seems to be a B simulator in many ways, that they just love to bang their head against the wall and go for it. I mean, of course, we're seeing a little bit more depth here as well. And like you mentioned from Apeks, right, they're taking this early A main space, but then it's that direction in the late round, which I'm finding a little bit puzzling right now. They are testing mid, as I sort of suggested maybe should be the case, but in terms of what extremity control they actually hold on to the late round, I mean, it's not really too much. And yeah, Focus into this retake, it looks so strong with the KO as well, and like what kind of value that's been finding. Lewis on these recons, and in fact, it's a recon right now, which sets up Yugi for B ramp. It means that everyone else can just focus their efforts on this A. Oh, top draw from Kiko onto Lime. The wingman is in safe hands as Kiko floats through the sky, and this has brought them now into post, and there's a lot of utility that they can work with from this position. The 0 point currently on cooldown, so nothing that Waddle can do, but Lewis will try and initiate something himself. The human form of initiation as he waltzes into the space, but Mystic is anticipating it. KPZ trying to put that Nebula on the spike and shroud it, looking for kills and walking away with a couple of them. It's this late flank from Enzo that's starting to appear towards Art that might just be enough to seal the deal, and in fact, Focus want nothing to do with it. They'll be looking to save. At least Waddle can win out that duel in practice. But the timeout delivering results here. Those early calls to just steady themselves a little bit from Itapata, yet again proving their value.
The problem is that that's the kind of round that you can't replicate in exactly the same way. So a lot of that comes off the back of Kiko pushing in through mid, updrafting, getting that opening kill, and opening up the site.
Yeah.
You don't have that ability every single round, so you have to come up with something different now, and to win off the back of a strat like that, it's cool to have those set plays, but you need to have a little bit more consistency in the round. So now we're going to see some of that pressure towards the B site that I was talking about a little bit earlier on, and now they've conditioned it. This is what I was saying. They've conditioned A, they've conditioned A, they've conditioned A, and there is nothing towards the B site, but Lime is very close to a lockdown.
Yeah, really, really nicely done from Apeks as well. They turn the dial in terms of velocity as well and go for something a little bit faster on the previous round, and they'll do it here again, it seems. You see the difference between a good team and a bad team using the Gecko is how exactly they have the wingman take that space in the site. And like you mentioned, because Kiko was there to do it, they'll try. And yeah, it's just a distraction. This one isn't holding on to the spike. Just forces these players to be on such a deep angle. Waddle there as well. Trying to deal with it as the bodies just cascade and come flowing through. Lewis spotted out a double swing. Very simplistic. It should be on paper. And in fact, it ends up exactly that. Yugi through the smoke manages to drop the spike in the open, and 1 versus 3, and the door slammed in his face, the shutters closed, and nothing more to be sold out in this round. It's just about eclipsed the heaven position, but yeah, a save, the most likely outcome here, you would feel.
30 seconds left. Spike planted.
What an unbelievably expensive round for Apeks, all things considered. They used, what, 2 ultimates into that? That's quite a lot, and they do actually get that spike down, which is the best part for them. They're gonna grab themselves around on the board, and they come through with 3 players left alive, so that's fantastic, maintaining some of that control. And with 2 of those players not having taken any damage as well, so the reinvest is going to be that much less of a burden. Focus are still probably feeling pretty confident here. You know, you only lose this 1 round, and that's going to even out the scoreline. So we could potentially have an evened out half here. But with the cash for Focus at the moment, it could be a little bit... No.
And Mystic has missed the shot, but so has Yugi onto the classic. Should just be cleaning up. Playing with the dash to sort of reactively move out, get out of dodge. But yeah, like you mentioned, a few of those players, or one of them was Mystic initially, didn't have to reinvest. Now Focus calling a timeout of their own.
Yeah, it's not one of those situations where they're at like an 8-round deficit, and if they don't call the timeout right now, then, you know, it's the end of the world. It is evened out, but it's a good time to just kind of reset your mental a little bit and focus in for the next round. As I said, right, the economy was a little touch and go, but they should still be able to come through the other side in a relatively comfortable fashion.
Yeah. And you put
go on.
I was going to say, you put it exactly right, that this map already is looking to be a lot more competitive. It looks more like a Focus pick than the Haven did, for example, right? Against an Apeks, you're always going to struggle to put up big results against them on a Haven, on a Lotus even. So looking towards that decider, it has me even worried if Focus can push it that far. But on Pearl, in terms of what they're able to get out of the mid-round, for example, the map control as a whole, has been pretty good. But this change of pace from Apeks is serving them well.
Hopefully they can continue with that. Of course, the change of pace is probably something that Fokus will have discussed themselves. And Apeks come into this round, as we said, right? They used 2 ults in the last round, 1 ult in the one before. Now they do have the Thrasher available into this round, but again, it's relatively situational. How are you going to get the most value out of that? It's not something you're just going to toss out and have it work in your favor.
Yeah. You get 2 uses of it, so the first one can be a little deeper, and the follow-up more proactive. Nicely done from Yugi. That's going to be the Thrash off the board, in fact, so we can completely forget about that for at least this round, but an important early pick to be taking.
That is ridiculous. After all that conditioning over towards the A site, the 1B hit, and the next round Fokus go, yeah, no, we're not letting that happen again. So much presence there now.
It's crazy as well. I mean, the first death percentage of Enzo sits at 6%, and you can see the game plan on this map specifically is very much built around having him in the lineup, using his utility to scale into these executes, have the power creep that we were speaking about. And yeah, while the Nebula, it's a nice idea to deal with that turret, you might as well just break it, because Fokus are under no false impressions right now as to where Apeks are. They're looking to take in towards the site. Oh, the vulnerability is good, but the follow-up just isn't there. Lime trying to do something. Water with a little bit more invested, a couple kills that he's able to pick up, leaving Shadow with everything to try and do, and he can't haul them through it. 6-5, Fokus, now they're in the lead.
That is a very uncomfortable round for Apeks, losing that first player so early on and then committing to that A push, and they get onto the site. But they can't get that spike down because by the time they push in, Fokus have already rotated. I will say Fokus have read the flow of this game, or of this particular map, incredibly well. They have such a good finger on the pulse. They know exactly when Apeks are committing, when they're just throwing out utility. They understand Fokus's, or rather Apex's game plan down to a T, and Apeks are the ones that seem to be struggling now.
Yeah, I mean, with Enzo falling as well there, you said about struggling to get the spike down. If you had, you know, the wee man, the little bro, whatever you want to call him, right, the wingman, it's a lot easier to do so. And the Thrash, it clears out all of the site, but this lockdown means that recovering that utility, a little more labored, Fokus can get themselves into position. Well, some may call it premature. I mean, look at this position from Lewis and KPZ, again, working off of one another to create that additional pressure, and they're going to be hot on the heels of the players as they move in. It's another kill from Waddle on this site defense. Yugi also involved. Fokus pulling together to try and get this one done. Teasing the angle Yugi on the op. Wants to be cautious here of that null command getting reset, and it's such a nice use of the wingman to get some more space of their own. 2 versus 2, and the flank has now reached the site itself. The smoke comes down, and Lewis comes up big. 7-5. The half belongs to them.
Switching sides.
Oh, Lewis being able to reset like that is criminal. Getting that final kill in onto Enzo, and yes, Fokus do. They win that half. 7-5. Apeks, I think, might be starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but we know how good they are on that defensive side, right? We saw it on Haven. They play that slightly more passive style. They are very, very intuitive. They're very, very reactionary, and they react, much like what I was saying about Fokus on their defensive side here, finger on the pulse, understanding the rotations and the timings really well. That's what Apeks play like on their defensive half. So if there was ever a time for them to be able to bring it back, this would be that moment, and it all starts with this pistol.
Yeah, the defense, the more dominant of the two, the one that we got a better look at when we were against Coalesce, Apeks that is, of course. Bro thinks he's on the team. Here comes Yugi trying to fight in towards R, and yeah, the kills are nice. Maybe I wish I was, because this is brilliant stuff from Apeks to just shut things down almost immediately. Both teams wanting to challenge mid, something that we expect of them each. KPZ full HP, Ghost in hand. I mean, you can't write him off, but certainly far from ideal. And look at the position of the spike, man. You need a step ladder if you want to get up there. And I think KPZ would appreciate a leg up. Maybe another player on his side to actually do it. And there we go. Kiko cleans it up and normalcy has been restored. That is the third pistol round now in the series going towards Apeks.
Got it.
I will say the funniest thing I've ever seen with a spike was somebody who was busy planting on bind next to a sage wall. They got killed, and the spike bounced over the wall.
Yeah, I know. It does have really weird bouncing physics. For a huge
Fantastic.
hunk of metal, you would think
Right?
that it wasn't full of springs, but apparently that is exactly the case.
There you go. Apeks winning that all-important first round that we mentioned. And of course, Kiko's got that Marshall in hand. And with obviously no armor to speak of for the Focus crew, that will get full use if they so walk into his crosshairs. For now, Focus are still undecided as to which position they
Look
want
at
to take.
this. So cheeky from Magnum. Has the cam planted up, and then it's just flashing in and out of it intermittently, looking to buy Kiko some additional room. I mean, with it flashing in the face, Focus obviously deal with that issue. Kiko now on a much deeper line, and we might see that jet duel come through in a second. Cloudburst just to continue faking that presence. In terms of Focus's approach towards the B, I mean, it was incredibly passive because all the fights were going down on the other end of the map. Apeks happy to just station Kiko here and deal with that.
Apeks are so chill. They're
Yeah.
not pushing. They're not taking unnecessary space. They know they have the map locked down in terms of rotations. They've got some good angles held, so they can just vibe.
Those cages, man. Magnum has so many setups. His brain is like an encyclopedia when it comes to Cypher. I really have absolutely no idea. And there we have it. Focus able to get the spike planted, and Waddle's actually found a kill. Lewis has got another one, and suddenly the wool is pulled from in front of the eyes. It seems as if Focus have a real chance in this round, and there's no second layer to this Apeks retake. They have to barge in through the front door. Unfortunately for them, the weaponry is just that bit superior. Lewis has picked up a Spectre, however. Kiko unable to find the shots. A good follow-up from Yugi. A ping back sight to Mystic, and when we speak of these big key rounds that just never seem to go Focus's way, they look to have snagged it. Mystic, surely not. You have got to be joking. He won't do it. He won't do it. And I think if he did, then that might just have been it for me, mentally at least. But there we have it. A really, really great retaliation from Focus, making the most of the numbers.
I will say I don't like dogging on players, but I feel like Kiko not hitting any of those shots is not great. I mean, if he's able to get one kill there, you know, immediately the tides start turning. If he could get that first kill of the round, if he could get one of those kills on the retake, right? But all of his shots miss, and it's rough, but it plays a part, because obviously how this works is if you get the kill, they're one down and you're one up.
Yeah.
And instead he winds up dying, and that's a player lost. So Focus will win on their opponent's bonus, or on the anti-eco, however you want to word it. And that's going to force Apeks back down onto pistols.
Everything gets thrown out the window when you see a second round win, especially when nothing is forced into it. There's no precursor. The attacking side more capable of doing that. You're already seeing Kiko hasn't brought anything into this round. Will only be on a classic, but apparently it's the best gun in the game. He's found a kill. That might just be it. Shadow on another one. Magnum with a shorty, and it's a 2 versus 2. Focus need to hold this high line in the site because they don't want to give away any of the weapons. Do onto Apeks what was done onto them. But this wraparound from Lime could be pretty big as soon as any information is in Waddle's possession. But I think Apeks know all about this. In fact, the cage even goes up, the flash is through, the Sheriff has to be good, but quite frankly it isn't. Magnum had the plant for him, but he's just clutching at straws with this shorty. 2 pumps in. No way. The Vortal's come out! And he's won the round! Do not scratch your eyes, Magnum. That is ridiculous.
And a free Vandal for his troubles, no less.
Get out, man. There's no way. There is absolutely no way that he wins that. And it's all to do with the plant as well, because it's so restricted in sight. Focus are worried off of a singular tap. They go piling through, waterfalling into the site, and Magnum has a way with water, I suppose, on this map, and it just completely shuts them down.
I will say my shorty doesn't do that. All right.
This goes here.
My shorty does like 20 damage per pump, if I'm lucky. Wow, what a ridiculous clutch. And honestly, Apeks needed that one.
Yeah.
Thrifty round, they didn't spend any cash into that, and now they get a full buy into this. They open it off by taking Yugi off the board. This is a great start to the next.
You speak of crazy rounds, Apeks having their fair share of them, Focus finally plucking one, and there's an immediate retaliation.
My camera is
I mean, this is just unreal. Now it's into a gun round. KPZ has gone for the hero rifle. Here is the one-way. Lewis slowly getting pecked at in the corner. No damage dealt. Still, Focus missing out on players, and finally enough of the shoulder shown to just tear it clean off, limb for limb, part for part. Apeks just coming together to find the rounds that we expect them to. Enzo with some stray spam, and it's going to be flawless. 8 apiece, and right now the wind's fully taken out of Focus.
Oh, that recovery from Apeks was kind of intense. Very, very impressive turnaround, and on an eco round, no less. I mean, I know we saw Focus doing something similar. I believe it was on Haven, in fact, but for Apeks, it was really important to just kind of stamp that down a little bit. Now, obviously, with it being a gun round, an op on the board for Kiko again, and we start to look at some of those ults as well. Lime has got the lockdown available, which is very, very powerful, but most of the other players are dangerously close to their ults as well.
Yeah. You're seeing here perhaps an avenue towards the late round, hitting towards B yet again. And I mean, how do you even dissect what we've seen in the last couple? I think we need a mental reset coming into this one. Kiko back on the op. Lime with the lockdown, and as I said before, Lewis now allowed to cross behind the Nebula. They saw where the cam was in the previous and should at the very least expect the setup to look somewhat similar.
Cam is nasty.
Kiko's rotated this op in towards mid and is looking to try and take a pick off the shoulder of Mystic, who's supporting him. While Focus have shown both ends of the map, Apeks have this full Cypher setup for B that's not been dealt with, even a trip in art. If you can take down Kiko, so much to be worrying about with less than a minute. In fact, only 30 seconds.
Ooh, good potential setup there. Oh, and there's the follow-up. He couldn't get out. Fantastic teamwork there from the Focus players.
Now Lime has this advanced lockdown that could maybe be invested to just secure the execute that they're aiming for. Problem is, by the time it's popped, you've got barely any time left to actually be getting that spike planted. Mystic, here he is again inside the smoke, but only one. Finally, the supportive cast come through. And oh my god, magnificent from Magnum again. 9 rounds found, and Apeks, the lead belongs to them.
So obviously Kiko gets spotted out by Lime. The flash comes through from Waddle. Yugi pushes out. Kiko knows he needs to retreat, but because he's flashed out, he can't find the doorway, so he's instantly dealt with. Then Yugi gets a second kill off the back of that, and it's like, all right, Focus now have control. They have the site, and it comes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier on about that mechanical skill. Magnum goes absolutely nuts, getting a 3-piece for himself, salvaging that round, getting them back the lead, and forcing Focus back down onto pistols. Now you've got the Blade Storm that needs to be invested for some semblance of power into this.
Yeah, I mean, Yugi is currently 20-9. I mean, Magnum doing great work of his own, and I wouldn't be surprised if his KD continues to climb to similar heights. I mean, he was the rotate player there on that A defense as well. The protocols on this Apeks side are just so rigid. I mean, yes, there's flexibility in there, of course, always. Always room to, do whatever they please right now. They still seem untouchable in many ways, and for Focus, they're going to probably be feeling a little bit gutted right now. They need that second wind, and maybe Yugi can deliver it for them. He is just trying to lock down the other areas of the map. And they're going to rotate into this as well. Now the kills need to be found, or it's going to be in vain, and I think that's exactly the case.
But it's somewhat of a fake because now they're pushing the spike over towards A, and they realize that Apeks on no fools. Spike is down. Waddle's the last one left alive. He has to rotate through Narnia straight into Enzo's crosshair, again, right, the reads from Apeks, they're understanding the flow of this game so well, finger on the pulse, and no matter what Focus try to do, Apeks know how to respond.
Yeah. The reason why I spoke of the timeout roundabout here, perhaps, is because you're coming into the most important sector, the final sector of this game. Look at the ultimates that are starting to pop up on both sides. There's a big round building, and I feel as if it might be this one. Seeing Kiko on the operator again. He's just going to be locking down B. It's this much heavier A setup. The cam has moved away from B in anticipation that Focus might want to deal with it. It's a slow start, but they're heading for the split.
Nowhere to run.
And there we go. It begins.
So it does. The ultimate's coming through. Yugi trying to take some of this space, but with the null commands traded, Focus have got the short end of the stick here. They've drawn it, in fact, as KPZ will draw blood inside the site. Position's not rooted out just yet, but as the players peek one at a time, it's a conveyor belt of frags that go into Focus's court. Shot between the cosmic divide, between the legs, in fact, it somewhat feels. It's going inside the smoke on the short. He completely closed doors from Focus. Such a big round for them to be winning, and they're going to do it in flawless fashion. Flawless round after flawless round. What a response.
Okay, here's the problem with that round, though. 3 ultimates committed to win it? That is
Expensive, a single null command.
expensive. I mean, that is nuts. Apeks are like, yeah, okay. We just baited out 3 of their ultimates, and we didn't even have to do anything to get there. Now we have 3 ults that we can play with. Sure, Apeks want to win these rounds, you know, cleanly, and they'd like to have a bigger scoreline, but at the end of the day, winning the game is the only thing that matters. So if you concede one round to 3 ultimates while only using 1 of your own, and you still have 3 into the next, that's not a terrible position to be in.
Yeah. Like I said before, Apeks do have the highest round delta in all of the Challenger Leagues globally, with the exception of Mouse in Dach. But when you go round for round, and sort of pound for pound, I guess you can say, that average gap, their margin of victory is bigger. Just about the amount of maps that they've played. And in terms of depth, I mean, you're seeing it here as well. Even the fact that their Pearl looks as good as it does. Kiko flying over, just playing Overwatch, seeing if he can spot anybody walking through this setup unscathed by Magnum. Lockdown coming through, but we already saw that combination of utility go towards the backhauls, so it'll be a little more difficult here to catch a player off guard. And in fact, Apeks, having already seen this, it's telegraphed, they've moved away.
And now they can play for retake, and we know that they're so good at that. Kiko's gonna get the first, and he escapes with his life.
The spike's still not planted. 30 seconds left on the clock. Either of these teams vying for an advantage in such a big round.
Oh, no.
Dizzy collects 2 players. Flash to the corner.
No.
They can't hide from the muzzle flash. The smoke in front of their eyes. Apeks up to 11. And now it really feels like they are just walking away with this game further and further from the grasps of Focus. It continues to slip.
Lockdown invested, absolutely no follow-up. They get onto the site, but Spike's not planted. And one flash, one Dizzy to come through and shut down any possibility of trying to maintain control of the site. And of course, Magnum goes huge again, because Magnum just does Magnum things. I mean, he's been exceptional on this map. As an anchor, as a fragger, honestly, huge boon for his team right now. But Focus in a bit of hot water here. They lose this round. Economy's in a bit of a tight spot.
Yeah. Focus trying to create some kind of revolution. It will be televised, whether that's through the spy cam of Magnum or something else. Twitch.tv/Valorant_NE, I suppose. But yeah, Kiko trying to watch down mid. Again, look how aggressive that tripwire that we saw really early on placed by Magnum is on B. It means he only has to account for a much wider angle. And even at that point, you fully expect Focus to, you know, break it on their ascent towards the site, and it's just going to be A again.
Enzo's in a really good position to just rotate off. playing a lot more passive, so he can still hit those shots, but if he needs to turn around and hightail it over, he can. And for the moment, there's just that little bit of information gathering down towards B from your boy Lewis. Doesn't spot out anything, so now the commit's going to come in.
Also has this royal flush of utility as well. I mean, because Fokus haven't tested anything, it means that everything that Apeks want currently still sits in their possession. Kiko inviting to the smoke, and in fact, he'll greet you himself with the shorty onto the Phantom. Any gun you put in his hands will be sufficient. As long as it has ammo, of course. A little bit of reloading to be done, but Lewis in a 3v1, nothing going for him. Apeks on the penultimate round, 12-9, and that timeout, I mean, when does it come through? Now or never for Fokus. Now or never. When are you going to beat Apeks?
Unreal that Kiko manages to get 4 in that round. Well played, well played. Creating a lot of nice space there. Again, I mean, that A site was so heavily guarded in any event, and instantly, as soon as they get an inkling that it's going to be a push, that utility just starts spamming through so much of it. Fragments, smokes, not updrafts, cloud bursts, like everything just comes through there to shut down those sight lines, shut down that space, and mow through those last standing players. And as I said, losing that round puts economy in a very tight spot here for Fokus. There will obviously be an investment. They have to. It's the last round, and if they lose this, that's it. It's done. So they're in such a dangerous position, and of course, having spent all of their ultimates in one round, like there was no cycling of ultimates. They kind of couldn't afford to cycle the ultimates because they kept losing rounds. So instead, they threw everything against the wall, and it did win them a round. But now, when it matters the most, I guess, they have nothing.
Yeah. I mean, even speaking with Lewis after their win against Vamanos, there was no additional importance placed on this match for them. You know, the next game in front is always the most important. And while we expect the captain to sort of underplay its significance, this puts Apeks in such a great position to be getting that top spot locked in. Here we have it. Into what could be the final round. A stretch of 3 for Fokus to clamber this one back. Going into the timeout. They come out of it with fresh ideas.
Oh man, this aggression from Apeks. It's something slightly unusual. Maybe unusual isn't the right word.
Yeah.
It's rare. It's rare.
Very well metered, I think it's fair to say. You've taken a little timing, sort of 30 seconds or so into the round. Kiko now posted up on the op. And you have this really strong extremity control on A. The rest of the Apeks players can just filter through onto the B defense. Magnum looks to be on that rotation right now, but with Fokus position currently, they are going to be heading in through the alleyway, trying to make one last dash for it, as it may seem. 4 caught in the suppression from Shadow. Mystic on the off angle, playing in the heavens and looking to bear down upon his subjects.
30 seconds
Magnum
left.
here as well, and like I said, look at the rotation from Apeks, and there's barely any time. The sightline's completely left wide open, and the spike needing to be planted. Waddle finally gets a move on. Lewis finding a kill, but immediately traded out. Still the 4 versus 4, and still the spike has not been planted. Util coming in, it's the mosh pit. Would be enough to take down Waddle, but in fact the players will do it instead. A few from Lime, but it's simply not enough. Apeks have conquered these lands once before, and they will do it again. History always written by the victors, and Fokus left to be forgotten in this result, unfortunately. Still the playoffs ahead.